Hello, my name is Charles Webster Bear, and I'm in Terrebonne, Oregon, USA. And today is March 28, 2021. And my website is globalinternetgovernment.com. So today I'd like to talk about a lot of different things. The first thing I want to talk about is depopulationism. So we can talk about that. The second thing I want to talk about, topic number 2, is GIG, globalinternetgovernment.com, my website, GIG. So topic number 1 is depopulationism. Topic number 2 is global internet government. Topic number 3 is Fog Bank. Topic number 4 is the Capitol. Topic number 5 is me. And topic number 6 is the history of the universe. So ideally, the plan is to have this be this video be over an hour long. That's what I'm going to attempt. I'm going to attempt to make a video which is over an hour long. I already did it on a Facebook video, but I haven't done it on a YouTube video yet. So that's today's goal. So let's recap, shall we? Topic number 1, depopulationism. Topic number 2, GIG. Topic number 3, Fog Bank. Topic number 4, the Capitol. Topic number 5, Charles. Topic number 6, the universe. And hopefully that'll put me over an hour. If not, I can probably babble on endlessly until we get to an hour. Delicious. Okay, so topic number 1, depopulationism. This is a big deal. In fact, I've always considered depopulationism to be the only real relevant issue. You know, everything else is just details. So, depopulationism is a word, and it probably has lots of different meanings. I don't know who invented the word depopulationism, but if nobody wants to take credit for it, I'll certainly take credit for it. But my interpretation of depopulationism is just the standard, traditional, classic Chinese interpretation, which is the one woman, one child policy. So I'm a depopulationist, and I think that depopulationism means that it's illegal and immoral for any human being to reproduce a second time in this century. So what we want to do as depopulationists is promote depopulationism. And what we want to do as depopulationists is create a significant and sustained and immediate decline in the human population on Earth. By limiting people to, either having 0 children or having 1 child. I mean, twins is okay, triplets is okay, but I mean, depopulationists want to say to people, okay, you can get pregnant 0 times or you can get pregnant 1 time. You can't get pregnant more than once. It's illegal and immoral. So that's the depopulationist agenda. And that's how we want to create a decline in the human population on Earth. And the reason we want to do this is because right now the human population on Earth is going up. It's increasing, and we feel that's the wrong direction. We feel that's a suicide course that is either going to kill the planet or has already killed the planet. So we want the human population to go in the correct direction, which is down. And if this occurs, then it will eventually arrive at a sustainable level, which is a number for future generations to determine, but I'm going to assume it's around 2 or 3 billion people. And this will give the environment an opportunity to heal itself. And this will allow for more trees to grow back. And then in the future, when people want to breathe oxygen, they'll be able to do that because there'll be enough trees to create enough oxygen for people to breathe, and then we won't all suffocate to death. And that's a good thing. Okay, so humans don't have the right to kill the planet, and humans don't have the right to threaten the planet. But that's what we're doing, and it's wrong, and it needs to stop now. We don't have the right to destroy the Earth, and we don't have the right to put the Earth in danger or at risk. But that's what we're doing because we're stupid. And we need to stop being stupid and start being smart. While we still have a chance. If we still have a chance. You see, environmentalists are people who want to save the planet, but they're too stupid to figure out how to do that. And depopulationists are people who want to save the planet, and we're smart enough to know how to do that. So environmentalists are people who talk about saving the planet, and depopulationists are people who are actually saving the planet. Okay, it's not legal for people to kill Earth. It's illegal for people to kill Earth. And it's not complicated, it's very simple. Are there enough people on the planet? Yes. So that means you don't need to make any more. Are there too many people on the planet? Probably. So that means you shouldn't make any more people. That's depopulationism. It's not complicated. It's very simple. Now, I've been talking about depopulationism since 1985. I've been a depopulationist since 1985. And so I've gotten pretty good at discussing the matter. And I just enjoy discussing the matter. Which is convenient because I'd do it even if I didn't like doing it. And I think I'm pretty good at it, which is convenient because I'd still do it even if I sucked at it. Depopulationism is the religion of this millennium. So that's depopulationism. Depopulationism is the goal. we need to achieve the goal. If you are a depopulationist, that's good. If you're not a depopulationist, you should seriously consider becoming one. If you are a depopulationist, it's no longer enough to just be correct. You have to get loud about it. So if you are a depopulationist, it's no longer enough to just sit there and say, yeah, I'm cool. You actually have to stand up and make some noise and, run for political office as a depopulationist. Only vote for political candidates who are publicly declared themselves to be depopulationists. So, it's no longer time to remove stupid people from the planet Earth, but it is time to remove stupid people from the governments of planet Earth. So that's depopulationism. And it's really the only rational and fair solution to the problem. The problem being human overpopulation on planet Earth. And really, there's only one problem on planet Earth, and that's overpopulation. And that's a big problem, a problem that may be so big we can't solve it. But we have to assume we can solve it, we have to assume we will solve it, and we have to get going with it now. And the plan is depopulationism, or the goal is depopulationism. I've been talking about this for 36 years. It's a long time. And I'm going to talk about it for another 36 years. That'll be an even longer time. So that's topic number one, depopulationism. That's what we need to do as a species right now, depopulationism. That's the goal. The goal is depopulationism. Now, topic number two is GIG, Global Internet Government, and that's the plan to achieve the goal. The goal is number one, depopulationism. The plan to achieve the goal is number two, GIG, Global Internet Government. Fuck yeah. Now, I created GIG in the year 2000 in Portland, Oregon. GIG is a social network, a media outlet. GIG's everything to everybody. But really what GIG is GIG is the world government. Technically, the world government is the United Nations and the International Monetary Fund, and I get that, and that's cool, and I dig it, and I love those guys. They're awesome. Thank you, United Nations. Thank you, International Monetary Fund. Keep up the fantastic work. You guys rock. Rock. But I created GIG, to streamline things. basically, I got the idea for depopulationism from China, and I improved it and made it global, worldwide for everybody. Well, I got the idea for gig from the European Union in the 1990s, and I improved it and made it available for everybody. The EU is an international government that is growing in size because it is allowing other nations to join it. Well, gig is the exact same thing, and it's going to grow worldwide because it's going to allow every nation to join it. So gig is going to unite the world politically and economically. Gig is going to unite the world politically with freedom and equality and democracy. And reproductive rights. And reproductive rights means that every human on earth has the right to total and free access to all forms of birth control, including abortion. Any government that does not completely and totally support this is an illegitimate government. Illegitimate governments will be replaced quickly and peacefully by gig. Thank you. So gig is going to unite the world politically with freedom and equality and democracy and reproductive rights. Gig is going to also unite the world economically with transparency and balanced budget amendments and low inflation and trade agreements. And gig is going to monitor every financial transaction by every government on the planet. Gig is going to publicly put every financial transaction by every government on the planet online immediately, and everybody can trace where all the money is, where it went, where it came from, how much, when it got there, what they did with it, blah, blah, blah. So every government on earth is going to be fiscally totally transparent because gig's going to kick it like that. So gig is going to unite the world politically and economically. So if you want to be part of gig, you become part of gig the exact same way that if you want to be part of the EU, you become part of the EU. First, you have to agree to the terms, then you hold a vote. And if the majority of the country's voters say, we want in, you're in. And you can also do the same thing to get out. You can hold a vote to get out, and if the majority of the voters in the country want to get out, then you're out. But you can't get into gig, just like you can't get into the EU, unless you agree to the terms first. And the terms are kind of similar. You know, low inflation, low debt, freedom, democracy. Democracy I can work with. There's a lot of wiggle room there. I mean, communist countries are more than welcome to come into global internet government. But anyway, yeah. So that's global internet government. The world government. Gig. So that's gig. But the number one deal with gig is is depopulationism. You have to agree with that first. That's the most important rule. That's rule number one, is depopulationism. Your country can't be part of gig unless it first accepts depopulationism on a legal basis, which makes it illegal for anyone to reproduce a second time in that country, if that country wants to be part of gig. Because we have to civilization has to improve and get better and evolve. And it is. And gig is part of that, taking the next step. We need to take the next step as individuals and become enlightened beings, which means we become depopulationists. And we need to take the next step as nations, which means we become enlightened nations, which means we become depopulationist nations. So depopulationism is just the latest evolution for individual humans on a spiritual and emotional and logical basis. But it's also the latest evolution of nations and civilization, just on a, we have to do this to survive basis. So depopulationism is really where it's at in terms of you looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I don't suck. And in terms of the whole world saying, you know what, we're not gonna kill the earth. So you need to become a depopulationist just so you can go to sleep at night, and the planet needs to become depopulationist just so it doesn't fucking die. And the only way to achieve this is with global internet government. Because the only way to achieve it is together. And the only way we're going to get together is with, gig, man. So I've been talking about depopulationism for 36 years, so I've pretty much got that down cold. I've been talking about global internet government for 21 years. So I've got that down cold too. And I don't know the exact date I created Gig. I just assume it's April 5th, 2000. So I want to wish Gig a happy 21st birthday next week. Happy birthday, Gig. Love you. Yeah. So that's Gig. We don't have wars anymore because, we don't kill each other anymore with guns and knives and stuff because we're better than that. We're civilized. We're not animals. And that's what politics is. It's resolving our differences with discussion and freedom of speech and democracy. That's what politics is. Animals fight each other with violence because they're animals. And humans are better than animals. And we settle our differences not with physical violence, but with logical debate and freedom of speech and democracy. And so that's what we need to do. We need to unite, not by bombing each other or killing each other, but we need to unite just by talking to each other and figuring out the best way to go as a planet and as a species with freedom of speech and discussion and elections and stuff like that. And that's what Gig's going to facilitate for everybody, everywhere, right now. Gig is going to provide a platform and a foundation for all human beings to participate in and contribute to the world government. I can't believe I've been talking about depopulation for 36 years and people are still like, what? And I've been talking about global internet government for 21 years and people are still like, what? I mean, what do I have to do? Talk about this shit for 200 fucking years? That's not going to happen. And if it does happen, it'll be too fucking late by then. Topic number 3, FogBank. Now, FogBank is my cyber currency that I created in 2019. Fogbank has a unit of currency, and that unit of currency is called the Fog Buck, F-O-G-B-U-K. Plural is Fog Bucks, F-O-G-B-U-X. Anybody, anywhere, can buy as many Fog Bucks as they want for 1 penny each. The value of a Fog Buck is 0. The value of a Fog Buck is nothing. Nothing. Zip, zilch, nada, bubkus. Now, hopefully that value will rise. Hopefully that value will go up. It cannot go down. If the value of a Fog Buck increases to something, then the value of a Fog Buck will begin to fluctuate and go up and down, which is the nature of all currencies, especially cyber currencies. Now, there's also something called a FOGBIC, F-O-G-B-I-K. Plural FOGBICs, F-O-G-B-I-X. Now, a Fog Buck is something that an individual purchases from Fogbank for 1 penny each. And anybody can do that as many times as they want. A FOGBIC is something that Fogbank gives to people. And I'm going to give everybody on the planet 10,000 FOGBICs right now. Bang. You're welcome. Now, the value of a Fog Buck and a FOGBIC is always identical. The value of a Fog Buck and a FOGBIC is always the same forever. If you have a Fog Buck, you have a Fog Buck for as long as you can hang on to it or until you spend it or give it away. If you have a FOGBIC, you have it as long as you have it until you give it or spend it away or until we take it from you. Because Fogbank loves you, Fogbank reserves the right to suspend and or terminate any FOGBIC for any reason, including no reason. There's also a ceiling and a floor. If you have $1 trillion American dollars worth of Fog Bucks, you can't have any more Fog Bucks because you've got too much money. If you have less than 10 FOGBICs, you'll get 10 FOGBICs every week that you have less than 10 FOGBICs. So now nobody can be completely broke, and there's a limit to how much money you can have. So there's a ceiling and a floor. So there's now a gap that is not infinite, but finite. And that gap will be closed as Fogbank lowers the ceiling and raises the floor every year. And Fogbank, of course, is 100% transparent, which means every Fog Buck has an individual unique Fog Buck number. Every FOGBIC has an individual unique FOGBIC number. Every Fogbank user has an individual unique Fogbank user number. And every Fogbank transaction has an individual unique Fogbank transaction number. All currency in Fogbank will be 100% transparent, which means anybody, anywhere, at any time can find out where all the money is in Fogbank and its entire history. So everybody everywhere can go online at any time and see where all the Fogbank currency is and its entire history, from from when it was made to what happened to it, all the way to the present tense. And Fogbics that get terminated, their history will live on forever, so everybody can go to see the entire history of every terminated Fogbic. So Fogbank is 100% transparent. And that is one of the main reasons why Fogbank is going to go from a cyber currency to the cyber currency to the currency to the only currency. Fogbank is going to eat all the money on Earth. Fogbank is going to take over every currency on the planet. Not because we're just going to crush everyone, even though we are, but because everybody's just going to come to us because that's the right way to go. We do money right. It's clean, it's transparent, it's easy, and it's fair, and it's good. So people are just going to leave their lame money. People are just going to leave their old-fashioned money and convert it to Fogbank, because Fogbank is the only option available to people to do money correctly. So in the 80s, I needed a new religion, and I created it, depopulationism. In this millennium, I needed a new government, and I created it, GIG. And apparently a couple of years ago, I needed a new monetary system, so I created it, Fogbank. I'm a creative guy, and I created something else too, called the Capital, issue number 4. Topic number 4. The Capital, one word. The Capital, one word. The Capital. All right, check it out. I'm the owner and president and founder of GIG and Fogbank. GIG and Fogbank are two totally different things. They're two totally separate deals. I created GIG, I created Fogbank, I own all of GIG, I own all of Fogbank, I will always own all of GIG, I will always own all of Fogbank. And they're two totally separate things. Two totally different things. One's government, one's money. Totally separate. And they're both private businesses that I own. And always will own. Until 2050. In 2050, I'm going to merge Fogbank and GIG and turn them into an international nonprofit and call it the Capital. So in 2050, I'm going to retire, and Fogbank and GIG are going to become one thing called the Capital, and it's going to become an international nonprofit. And it's going to be run by the Assembly. Now, the Assembly is a international democratic House of Representatives. And each nation gets one representative. And that representative is elected by the people. And each nation gets one representative for every 10 million citizens. And those representatives are elected by the people. And these representatives go to the Assembly and pass legislation. And before 2050, that legislation will simply be advice to me, which I will ignore. However, after 2050, I'll be retired or dead, and that legislation will be law for the world government, the capital. So in 2050, GIG and Fogbank are going to merge into an international nonprofit called the Capital that will be run by the Assembly, which is a democratically elected international House of Representatives. Each nation gets one representative that is elected by the people of that nation in a democratic and fair electronic vote that happens every 5 years, starting in 2025. And every country gets one representative for every 10 million people. And those representatives are elected by the citizens of that country in an online democratic election, free election that happens every 5 years. So that means America would have 35, 36, 37 representatives. China and India would have 1,400 representatives. No, wait. America would have 36 representatives, so China and India would have 140 representatives. And a country that has less than 10 million people would have one representative. So England would have 6 or 7 representatives. Anyway, all these representatives are in the Assembly. And the Assembly, all of these representatives get elected every 5 years. The elections start in 2025, but they're not official until 2050 because the legislation that the Capitol passes before 2050 is merely advice to me, which I'm just going to blow off. But I'm going to retire before 2050 or die. So after 2050, all the legislation that the Assembly passes will become official law of the world government, which is called the Capital. Because it's the fucking capital. The Capital, one word. All lowercase. I don't use uppercase letters. They're stupid. So that's the Capital. It's going to run the world after 2050. I'm going to run the world before 2050. And that's the democratic world government, the Capital. I just came up with that a couple months ago or whatever. I mean, I've been thinking about it for a while, but anyway. So that was topic number 4. Now we're going to talk about topic number 5. Me. We're going to talk about me. We're going to talk about my favorite subject. And I've been talking about me for 52 years. Because I'm 52. I created depopulationism. Well, the Chinese did. I created GIG. I created Fogbank. I created the Capital. And I created me with a little help from my parents. And so who am I? I'm Charles Webster Bear. I'm 52 years old. I'm a Buddhist because, in my opinion, that's the correct philosophy. I'm an atheist because I don't believe in God, and I'm an agnostic because I think we're all agnostics, in my opinion. And I don't have any kids. I've never been married. I'm single. I'm heterosexual. I was born and raised in Santa Cruz, California. Original West Side represent. West Side. West Side represent. Original West Side represent. I went to high school in Newport, Rhode Island. Rogers. Good times. And in 1994, I graduated from the University of Hawaii on the Big Island of Hawaii in Hilo. And I moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico in 1995. And in 1999, I moved to Portland, Oregon. And in 2007, I moved to Bend, Oregon. And in 2014, I moved to China for 3 years. And I became a spy for the Chinese government. Shh. And then in 2019, I moved to Redmond, Oregon. And next year, I'm going to run for mayor of Redmond again as a depopulationist, number one, and a libertarian, number two. And in 24 and 28, I'm going to run for the United States President of the United States of America in 24 and 28 as a depopulationist and as a libertarian. So please vote for me. Vote Bear if you care. I'm a libertarian. I'm a politician. I'm a depopulationist first. That's my main goal, my only goal. But I'm also a libertarian. And a libertarian is somebody who is fiscally conservative and socially liberal. A libertarian is somebody who takes the best from the Republican Party, less government, and the best from the Democratic Party, more freedom. So, if it has to do with, a libertarian is, if it has to do with money, we're on the right, and if it doesn't have to do with money, we're on the left. So I want to legalize all drugs in all quantities. But I don't really care about that. I'm for gun control, but I don't really care about that. I'm for the death penalty, Texas style. I'd also like to see suicide become socially acceptable and legal for people over 30. Or people with terminal health conditions or terminal sentences. I'm for negative immigration, which means I think the number of people leaving the nation of America should be more than the number of people entering the nation of America. And I'm an isolationist, which means that I'm only going to get America involved in foreign policy issues if it A, is a national security issue, or B, if it is an issue that the United Nations approves of and is willing to coordinate financially and militarily with the nations of that region. So please vote for me, Charles Webster Bear, for mayor of Redmond, Oregon, USA in 2022. And please vote for me, Charles Webster Bear, for president of America in 24 and 28. Thank you very much. So that's me. That was topic number 5. And I like to talk about me a lot. So give me a call and we'll talk about me all day long, every day. It's a subject that's endlessly fascinating. So now we're going to go to topic number 6, the final topic, and it's going to take us all the way to the 1 hour mark, the history of the universe. I love this universe. It's a great universe. It might be the only universe. It's big, it's weird, just like me. So let's talk about the history of this universe. Because it's an amazing story. Fascinating. Interesting. Smelly. This known physical universe was not created. It's always been around. It's just been real small. So 15 billion years ago, or as I like to say, infinite time negative, infinite space negative, the universe was a expanding plasma of dark energy. And this tiny expanding plasma of dark energy expanded and cooled and formed a small plasma of dark matter and dark energy, which continued to expand and cool to a size that computers can comprehend, and formed a expanding plasma of subatomic particles, which continued to, or quantum particles. So the universe was dark energy, then became dark matter, then became quantum particles like bosons and neutrinos and leptons and photons and quarks and bosons, and then that plasma of quantum particles continued to expand and cool and evolve into a plasma of subatomic particles, and we call that the Big Bang. And that was the creation of time and space and gravity. And then the universe became large enough for mammals to comprehend. And then the universe was an expanding plasma of atomic particles which formed hydrogen atoms. So then 14 billion years ago, the universe was an expanding plasma of hydrogen atoms, which gravity acted upon and formed hydrogen clouds, which created fusion and fission, which formed stars, which formed the other elements. And gravity acted on the stars to form galaxies. So then 13 billion years ago, the universe was expanding galaxies. Well, it's still expanding galaxies to this day, and in fact, the expansion is increasing in speed and size. So 5 billion years ago, our sun was created, and our planets were like created as the leftovers that started orbiting the sun. And Earth was created as a blob of lava, which then cooled and formed the crust, and gas escaped and formed the ocean. And then 4 billion years ago, life occurred due to random chemical reactions. And bacteria reproduced and evolved into algae, which reproduced and evolved into photosynthesis and created the atmosphere. And then that evolved into seaweed, which evolved into land plants, which evolved into fish, which evolved into reptiles, which evolved into mammals, which evolved into monkeys, which evolved into apes. Hello, we're apes. But evolution didn't stop there. No, sir. It kept going. And apes evolved into computers. And computers will eventually evolve into artificial intelligence, which will continue to evolve into silicon-based life forms, which will continue to evolve into higher levels of silicon and other artificial-based life forms, which will eventually go on to colonize the galaxy and the universe. The end. That's the history of this known physical universe. I left a few things out. I'm really going to make it over an hour. This is absolutely awesome. Okay, let's back it up, shall we? 3 million years ago. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's it. 3 million years ago. Okay, so 3 million years ago in South Africa, Homo erectus evolved into us, Homo sapiens. And we went north through the jungle. Dangerous, difficult, wet, hot. And we made it out on the other side, and then we blasted out of Egypt, like about 200,000 years ago, and colonized the planet. And so, about 15,000 years ago, we've got civilizations, domestication of plants and animals, farming, language, customs, heritages, societies, just all kinds of groovy stuff going on. And then 2,500 years ago, we've got advanced societies. One of those advanced societies was in Greece, where they laid down the basis of Western civilization, which still exists today. Democracy, science, math, theater, astronomy, you know. And the Italians said, hey, this is good stuff. We're going to get some of this. So the Italians got that from the Greeks, and they took it to Europe. And that's the basis of Western civilization. And it still is, because they got it right. The Greeks got it right. And so we're still rolling with it. And that was Greece 2,500 years ago. Now, around the same time in Nepal, there was this cat named Buddha. And Buddha got all philosophical. And he started thinking, well, how come when I'm dreaming, I don't know I'm dreaming? And he came to the conclusion that you can only know your thoughts exist. Everything else may or may not exist. So that meant that if the universe exists, great, have fun. If the universe does not exist, then what are you? You can't be part of the universe because the universe doesn't exist. So if the universe doesn't exist, what are you? And Buddha said, well, you're the soul. So that's what Buddha said. I think he was correct. But what that means is it's one or the other. You can't have it both. You can't have it both ways. The universe exists or it doesn't exist. It can't be both. It's one or the other. If it exists, enjoy. If it doesn't exist, then what the hell are you? You're the soul. Well, this information traveled east to China, where they had a language that was sophisticated enough to understand what the hell Buddha was saying, and the Chinese created Buddhism. Thank you, China. Good job. This information traveled west to the Jerusalem, where they didn't have a language that was sophisticated enough to understand this concept, and they misinterpreted it, and they called it Christianity, and then they misinterpreted it again a millennium later, and they called it Islam. And many hijinks ensued, and there were many shenanigans, and those shenanigans continue to this day. And so anyway, Italy brought civilization to Europe with the Roman Empire. And then there was the Dark Ages. And then there was the Renaissance and the Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution and technology. And then shit shifted to America, where there was freedom and democracy and equality. And then there were some wars. And then there was the 50s. And people said, well, what now? Now what? It's the 50s. Now what do we do? And the answer was environmentalism. Let's not kill the planet. We're obviously killing the planet. Let's not do it. So people thought, well, how do we not kill the planet? And people, I'm sure, in the 50s and 60s arrived at depopulationism. But it didn't really gain much traction until the 70s, when people were like, okay, this is ridiculous. We need to do something. Or we need, at the very least, we need to talk about doing something. And that's when depopulationism started to gain traction. And then in the 1980s, China actually did it. China actually did it in the 80s. And that was the first and only time that any people have ever done anything for the environment. That was the first and only time that any country has ever officially had a policy of environmentalism that made sense and actually accomplished something. And then in the 90s, it was time for the whole world to do that. And now I'm at over an hour. So I've just made a YouTube video over an hour. So this is huge, huge, huge deal. Big deal, big deal. Very happy. Okay. So in the 1990s, it was time for the whole planet Earth and the whole species to say, okay, we're going to save the planet with depopulationism. Let's go. Let's do it. But we didn't do that. We didn't do it because we're stupid and we're greedy and we're evil and we suck. And then this millennium started, and it's like, okay, it's now or never. Well, we chose never. And so now the planet's dead. And that sucks. And so now we have to try to save the planet if we can. And if we can't, we need to try anyway, because what the hell else are we going to do? And so we need to save the planet now with depopulationism and global internet government and Fog Bank and the Capitol and Vote Bear and the universe. And this is my video. My name is Charles Webster Bear. Today is March 28, 2021. I'm in Terrebonne, Oregon, USA, and my website is globalinternetgovernment.com. Thank you for watching. Please make your own video where you talk about these topics and you discuss your own opinions on these topics. Please become involved environmentally as a depopulationist. Please become involved politically as a depopulationist. Yeah, I don't have much left to say. I'm just glad I went over an hour. I think I pretty much talked about all the stuff I wanted to talk about. Thank you again for listening. Give me a call. Let's talk. And that's that. Let's take a look at this. This is Smith Rock State Park. Isn't it awesome? And that is Misery Ridge.